Welcome back to episode 1 of the Burgh Breakdown. Can't thank you guys enough for tuning in to episode 1. Hopefully you tune in to episode 2. Hopefully you enjoyed what you've heard so far about the Pirates and the Steelers, but we're going to close things off with the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's been a busy offseason so far for Kyle Dubas and company. A couple of trades have been made, about a half dozen signings, so a lot of new faces that we're going to see in September when training camp rolls around. But to me, there is one move that Kyle Dubas didn't make that tells us more than anything we've learned from the moves he has made. As of right now, the Penguins have not made a veteran signing at the goaltender position. And I say that as a notable absence of a move because the Penguins over the past 5 years have always had a veteran presence between the pipes. 2021, you had both Casey DeSmith and Louis Domingue. In 2022, you had Casey DeSmith as your backup. You signed Dustin Tokarski as your third guy. In 2023, DeSmith goes out. Alex Nedeljkovic comes in. Who do you sign behind him as a number 3? Magnus Hellberg. In 2024, you still had Alex Nedeljkovic. And last year in 2025, Tristan Jarry wound up being the veteran. When he was traded, it ended up being Stuart Skinner that was paired with your young goaltenders. So the fact that Kyle Dubas hasn't made a vet signing shows how much faith that he and the organization have in their 3, I guess we could count 4 if you want to include Taylor Gauthier, who signed a contract and will likely be playing this season with the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. But it shows how much faith the Penguins organization have in their kids between the pipes. If you look at the 3 players, Artur Shilovs is the most seasoned of them all. He is, for all intents and purposes, he is now the veteran of the group. He's 25 years old. He has 58 career games in the National Hockey League regular season. That's less than Martin Brodeur played in certain seasons throughout his career. That's less than Marc-Andre Fleury had played in seasons when he was with the Penguins. 58 career games for Artur Shilovs. 39 of those 58 came last season in his first with the Penguins. Shilovs was a restricted free agent. He signs a 1-year extension. It feels like he is going to be the yin to Sergei Murashov's yang going into next season. And how will Dan Muse handle the goaltending position? Probably a rotation because, well, if it ain't broke, and it certainly wasn't broke last year, much to the chagrin of every conventional hockey mind, I questioned it. I saw a lot of other people question it, saying goaltenders, when they're hot, you ride the hot hand. But Dan Muse stayed true to it. More often than not, he'd say, that was a nice start, Stu. That was a nice start, Tristan. That was a nice start, Arturs. But the next time we play, it's going to be the other guy out there. It was a rotation. And it worked. I didn't think it would. The question that we asked on Tip of the Iceberg every 2 weeks was, when is this going to be over? When are they finally going to commit to somebody as the starter and somebody else as the backup? Dan Muse didn't do that. He committed to Stuart Skinner as the starter in the playoffs, but you'd have to imagine part of that was because Artur Shilovs was dealing with a knee injury, unbeknownst to us. Otherwise, who knows what they would have done in the playoffs? I'd like to think that, yeah, they would have picked someone and stuck with them until what happened eventually happened. You go down 3-0, you need to switch something, you put in the other guy. But who knows? If Artur Shilovs was healthy in the playoffs, would they have continued to go back and forth? Or would they have done what they did, which was commit to Stuart Skinner until the last possible second, and then they pulled the ripcord and said, let's try something, let's put in Shilovs? I don't know. But it is interesting that now you have Shilovs, the vet, you have the heir to the crease in Sergei Murashov, who everybody expects to be an absolute game changer, but again, has played only 5 games at the NHL level in his entire career. He has a 1-1-2 record an .897 save percentage, 2.56 goals against average. I think his performance is better than the numbers indicate in those 5 games. I mean, he had a shutout for his only victory over in Sweden. But again, a lot of inexperience. And you're placing a pretty important season on the shoulders of a 22, eventually 23-year-old goaltender this season. Now, everything we've seen from Sergei Murashov tells us that he can handle the pressure. I mean, go back and listen to his end of season press conference after they lost to the Toronto Marlies in the Eastern Conference Finals of the Calder Cup playoffs. If you listen to his media availability, you'll find it at Tony Androkaitis' page on Twitter. That's Tony Androck on Twitter. Go back and watch that. It seems like he's mature enough to handle the NHL mentally. But again, we don't know. It's a question mark. And then there's Joel Blomqvist. I think that the forgotten piece in all of this, he signed a 2-year extension with the Penguins this offseason. And last year, he didn't play a single game at the NHL level. Last season, he played exclusively for Wilkes-Barre of the AHL. 16-5-4 record, a .913 save percentage, which seems to be kind of the average for Joel Blomqvist. He is a very, very, very good AHL goaltender and a 2.40 goals against average. But if you look at what he did the year prior when he had an opportunity at the NHL, he played in 15 games, which is not an insignificant sample size. It's not a huge sample size, but it's not nothing. 4-9-1 record, .885 save percentage, and a 3.81 goals against average. Now, again, grain of salt, because the Penguins' defense was very not good 2 years ago. It was slightly better last year, and I do think it'll be slightly better this year. But the fact still stands that at least as of this point in the NHL offseason, Kyle Dubas has put his faith in 3 young, relatively inexperienced goaltenders. And that tells you everything you need to know about what the organization thinks about those 3 plus Taylor Gauthier. Because if you don't add a 4th, there's a chance you're going to be putting some NHL time in the hands of Taylor Gauthier, who is an all-world ECHL goaltender, deserves an opportunity to prove if he can be more at the AHL level, but might have an opportunity at some point this season to prove if he can do it at the NHL level. That we'll have to wait and see. And if that happens, obviously some catastrophic things have happened or some unfortunate things have happened. But I still find it very interesting. And I think it's one of the most telling things we've been able to receive from this offseason in Kyle Dubas, that he has not brought in a veteran goaltender. I went down through the history of the last 5 years. There have been vets, 30-year-old vets, even the third goaltender, people that have been around the block, people that have played in NHL games as a backup before. It's going to be a very interesting year once again for the Pittsburgh Penguins between the pipes, and I'm super excited because this is the first chance we're going to get to see Sergei Murashov, but also this is the second chance we're going to get to see what Artur Shilovs can do now with a little bit more of a sample size behind him, a little bit more experience behind him. We always knew he was a good playoff performer, but now that he has a year where he was able to hit and stick at the NHL level, how does he kind of build off of that in year 2? Should be a lot of fun.